Hello, Jeff.
Here we are.
There we are.
We're live.
How are you?
I'm great.
You're good?
Yeah, it's just me and the octopus, of course.
You and the octopus. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night. He lives in LA, one of my best friends. Knows everything, knows too much about me. But he left me a voice message, and I was dying. I was listening to it, and I was dying. And he was reminding me of the time I said to him, I had so many coffee meetings this week. I have to start wearing an adult diaper. I was like, I said that? He's like, oh yeah, you said that. I was like, can I play your voicemail on the show? Yeah. He was like, no, absolutely.
No, he said no, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But it's true, you know.
Yeah,
it's so funny. You have coffee meetings sometimes so frequently. It's like, oh my god, you just, you know.
Well, you know, like we talk about this, like we always try to avoid that back-to-back thing.
Yeah.
That's where you get into trouble, like, you know, when you have like the 3 back-to-backs.
Yeah. You start promising things you can't.
There's no bio break availability there, right?
Yeah, like, right.
So anyway.
So, okay, we've got a great show today, the program, if you will, as we call it. And I think we've got a great, really cool, I say a lot of attendees threatening to come in here and pay attention to the program. And we've got a great guest.
Yes.
So the title of the show is The Human Side of Success. And, you know, we're going to be talking about guest experience, scaling a business, leadership, messaging, really the human side of building a business that other people actually want to partner with and work for and be engaged and part of. And that's, you know, that there's so much community corporate culture stuff where it's like, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that. It's Chili Friday or, you know, Ping Pong Wednesday. But sometimes I think we get lost in the fact that those accoutrements I don't know that those are exactly, to me, those are nice, but like, it's not really why people are there. And, you know, having great health benefits, having leadership that listens, that sort of a thing to me builds better corporate culture than, you know, I'm not going to turn Craft Beer Friday down.
Pizza Friday, right? Is that what they got?
Pizza Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
We made the numbers, and here's some pizza.
That's right.
That's what you get. We get the bonuses, you get the pizza.
So our guest today is Sondra Shannon, and I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of years ago. We just hit it right off. I got a chance to be on her podcast, which we'll talk about today. And I know, right? The podcast still goes. It's called Live with Sondra. My appearance on it did not destroy her credibility or ruin the brand. So they're still out there, and it's a kick-ass show. She's great. She's also the CEO of Gatemaster Tech. They help attractions create better guest experiences through point of sale and ticketing technology built for actual real-world, real-time success. She hosts the podcast Live with Sondra. It's built around honest conversations, innovation, and the people that truly are driving the work and the innovations that we see. She was appointed CEO whilst pregnant with her 3rd child and is known for her natural white hair streak that has become part of her signature brand. In fact, so much so that several years ago, Joe Perry copied her.
That's true. Wow, true story.
He did. He lifted the look. So we used to call that back in the late 80s. I tried to do it once with a streak of like sun in my hair, and it just came out like clown orange.
Right.
We call that look the right to rock. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest who has most certainly the right to rock, Sondra Shannon.
Yes, she is.
There she is.
Well, hello, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I love that. The right to rock.
He's got the right to. We always called it the right to rock. I don't know why. There was a couple of bands that were coming up back in the day, and you know, some guys had the little blonde streak here, some guys had a streak there. You know, our keyboard player went in with, I want to frost all my tips. I don't know where his accent was from. He was he said he was Hawaiian, but he wasn't. He said he was Japanese, but he wasn't. He was Korean American, and he had this weird way of talking, confusingly. But he always wanted his tips frosted, and he would ask, "Can I borrow $60 to get my tips frosted?" Why would I give you money to get your tips frosted? Welcome to the program. We've got a great show today. So where are you today? Where are you sitting?
So I'm actually home in Denver today, which is nice. I'm home for about 24 hours here with you guys.
I love
nice.
it.
Love Denver.
Yeah.
This will be an hour you don't get back. So sorry.
Well, and I have to tell you, this white streak is mine.
I love it.
Tips. Yeah.
No,
it was
right
hereditary.
Really?
I was 25 when I got it, and I dyed it for a number of years, but I decided to let it go in my early 30s. And now I say, when I retire, I'll dye it.
There you go. Diet.
Nobody will find me now.
Yeah, actually, my mother-in-law had the same thing early, in her 20s. Around, I think in her 50s, she decided just to dye it. That's how long she had. She had it. She did the opposite. She decided, that's it.
But I feel like I've had the right to rock.
Yeah.
Since
and
then,
you know what?
I
can tell, and because we've had chats before, you do have the right to rock. You have every right to rock, for Christ's sake. Okay? So we are going to get into it here. Sometimes my LinkedIn likes to play the show while I'm on the show, and then I get confused where we are. So and occasionally people will notice and go, "What the fuck is happening with Peter?" Somebody's super psyched about the Sun In. Sun In is a deep cut. It sure as hell is. Yeah, it sure as hell is. And we've got Joel Block. Joel Block Advantage. He's in the audience. John Stewart is here.
John Stewart's in the audience.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph of Arimathea. How did we get him? And Dan Roth, little Danny Roth, is in the house.
Yes.
And you were the Sun In guy. Cool.
Dave Lee Roth's brother.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
We've been postulating on that for quite some time. So let's dive in. First of all, you're home today. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what Gatemaster is and what you do there?
Sure. So Gatemaster is, like you said, ticketing, point of sale technology. And we really work on the side of the attractions that are revenue how are they generating revenue, and really looking at, probably the most important thing that any business needs to know, which is their numbers. They need to be looking at that every single day. This conversation often with businesses about, do you know your numbers? And oftentimes they just feel what the numbers are rather than actually know numbers. So we really take pride in not only getting them those numbers that they need, but also to, get them to understand their business, the measurable results that they need to have, and help them achieve their goals. And we also, because we are in ticketing technology, we're the first touch that most guests or people who are visiting attractions have with these attractions. So it's important that experience is forgettable, truly, right? You don't want them to remember the ticket purchase.
Yes,
that's such an interesting. Yeah. That's truly one of the moments that you want it to be forgettable.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great.
Right, but also frictionless.
Yeah,
and that's really what we strive for, is to create as little friction as we can on their way to having the memorable experience. So that's kind of how I like to describe it. I mean, the system itself is a beast, as you can imagine, being able to scale it from, a mini golf park all the way to a theme park. So, with regards to it being an enterprise software, there's quite a lot of features in there that help them run their parks. And we do touch the guests throughout their journey in the parks because of the point of sale, food, retail, and a lot of different experiences, photo integrations. I mean, you'd be surprised how many places we touch the guest experience inside of an attraction.
Oh, that's wild. Is there something though that before Gatemaster, or maybe that as you came in to take over, which I want to talk about a little bit, what were some of the things that were wrong with that industry, or what was, were there things that you guys realized there's an opportunity to do this better? What were those?
Well, I would say, I mean, maybe I could take a step back because this is my favorite part of the story. When I was in college, I started to play competitive paintball and laser tag, and I liked laser tag a lot better because it didn't hurt as much.
Yes.
And if you guys know my sister Tiffany, I mean, she took a shot to the eye one time. That's a long story.
I don't know Tiffany, but my condolences.
Yes, and she's great, but she didn't end up losing a little sight. And at that point, I was like, I think we're safer playing in an arena. So I really loved laser tag, and then I got to know the business around it. And at the particular facility that I was the general manager of, we used Gatemaster's technology. And it was the first iteration of the product that our founder had created. And he truthfully, he built it for his own attractions that he had, because there was not a system out there. I mean, as you can imagine, in the late 90s or early 90s and late 90s, there were no ticketing technologies. That just wasn't a thing. People were using paper tickets.
Right.
And
even the movie theaters and everything still paid for tickets.
Yeah, and Casio cash registers. About 2001, we started having a conversation about building the next iteration of this software together. And part of that was because I was a super user of the tech. So we spent a lot of nights together, me going, I needed to do this. I needed to do that. We built that first one. And then the next generation of the product, which was E2, we started building in 2001. And the rest is kind of history. But I will say this, when we built E2, we took all the things that we knew worked really well and then continued to innovate based on the needs of the industry. And I lost my thought that there was something.
That's okay.
I wanted to say about
I just
that.
think it's fascinating.
So we continued to innovate on the industry, but with that product, this is what I was going to say. Back then, we were replacing Casio, so nobody had actually. A lot of the parks that we were working with had never even touched computers.
Right.
I don't know about you guys. It wasn't until like the late 90s that I even touched a computer. Right. Early 2000s. So at that
kind of
time,
very early.
I had an abacus.
Yeah. Right. So at that time, it was an interesting time to be teaching technology to people. But I really loved that time. And during my first 10 years with Gatemaster, we did over 800 parks, 16 countries.
Wow.
And I mean, it was a different time than what we see now with technology. And I'm very grateful for some of the experiences that I had. I was able to go into parks, Atlantis in the Bahamas, train their team to use their first computers ever. That was a really cool experience and some of the memories that I cherish about the business. And then, as you said, about 2012, I took over as the company's CEO under the guidance of the founder.
Sure.
And
but you were pregnant at the time? Is that the case? Your third child?
I'll tell you, I feel like I can share this story here. So, my first tattoo, he looked at me and he said, "No more." The founder of the company. He was like, "No more tattoos. This is it. This has got to be the only one." Wow. I was like, okay. And the same thing when I had my first kid, he was like, "No more. This is the only one." This is the only one. And I went on to have 3 more kids. So I laugh about that story all the time because tattoos and kids, he told me I couldn't have more than one.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, they're like potato chips, right? Except for the kids part. That I have some self-control over that element. Certainly have tried. That's awesome. That's wild. So, and that's such an interesting thing to see someone though, at that point in time too, because, there's a lot of bias and there's a lot of, companies and leaders that don't get it and they don't understand that part of people's life,
Yeah. I mean, he fully accepts it now, which is great.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, that's the thing about, you were mentioning about the human side of business. We're best friends, the founder and I. We've spent a lot of time together working on projects and in the trenches, like legit opening these parks, dealing with the scaling and massive amounts of transactions that they have to do in order to do what they do. And a lot of that meant that we were spending, sleepless nights working on the program and how do we fix this and all of the things that we agreed to do together, and
Right.
really it was always about the agreement that we had to work together and to be in it with each other and make sure that it happened. And he's retired now, but I'm still super grateful that he gave me that opportunity. This is kind of my moonshot, so I'm glad I stuck with it.
I love it.
There's a lot to be said about being in the right place at the right time, that type of thing. And I love those stories where kind of like where you started with laser tag and paintball. And I mean, it's funny how it turns into something completely different that you would have probably at that time you had no expectation of where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to say I'm a college dropout, although I had somebody on my show like, don't say that. And I'm like, but I love it. I actually wear it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
And when I quit because I got this job at the laser tag place, and it was free laser tag. I loved it. It was like my favorite thing to do. It was being active, and it sounds silly, but back then we were a lot more competitive, the players.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? There's a lot to say for cutting your own path on that stuff. I think I spent about 45 minutes at a community college. And I think I left the line with my book money to get my textbooks and went to New Hampshire and got a tattoo instead. And then, I guess at this place, they used to have, I don't know, someone used to have a kegger in the parking lot every Friday. And I was like, this is the best ever. But then when that got shut down, I was like, I think I'm all done with school, man.
That was it, right?
I'm going to figure out the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. So, what do you think about scaling? Because you guys obviously have done that, and I think you've been doing that since you've taken the helm. Talk to us a little bit about scaling. I mean, in our world, we hear a lot about it. We hear people ask a lot of questions about it, and I think it's different from business industry to industry in some ways. There's got to be some core universal truths. Anything like that pop to mind for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think at least from growing our company and scaling our company, we certainly saw that there were breakpoints in business that not only did we experience, but also I think every business goes through it. A lot of businesses, no matter the industry, like to think that we're all so different, but there becomes certain points in a business where, systems are going to be a problem. Leadership's a problem. And when I say systems, having the right processes in place are a problem to duplicate what you're doing. And a lot of that, I did learn from working with parks who were much bigger than we were, right? Watching them scale and watching them bump up against these breakpoints in their businesses, oftentimes I would say almost always were two things in the beginning. It was their processes. Were they doing the same, were they continuing to do what worked over and over again, and did their team know how to do it? And then the other was systems, for sure. I often say that until about $1 million, systems don't really get in the way of a lot of businesses. But once you start getting past that $1 million mark, which is $1 million makes up I think it's something like 1% of businesses, right? If you get past $1 million, but that's the point in which a lot of businesses break. And most of that is systems and process.
Okay.
It's also, I find too, that there's like someone is keeping all of the things that need to get done. There's one person, right, that does 15 different things, and no one else knows how to do that. And then that's that becomes the speed bump. Right. Oh, that's always a red flag for me if somebody doesn't want to teach other people what they're doing, right? Because you have to elevate yourself out of your position. And I say all the time too, I knew that I'd achieved a certain level of success when I no longer had to do the things I'm not good at. First of all, I am no business doing those things, right? And then two, the things I don't like to do, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice benefit to scaling not only yourself but your business. I don't. There's just some things I don't like to do, and most of the times I don't like to do them because I'm not great at it. If I'm being completely real.
Yeah, they're frustrating.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For anybody that's just joining us, this is Where the Dogs of Society Howl, and our guest today is Sondra Shannon. She's the CEO of Gatemaster Tech, and she also is the host of Live with Sondra. So we're excited to have you here. You know, I noticed that there was a post from somebody, I don't know, it was a while, maybe a day or two ago, and they had an interesting question that is a nice dovetail to what we were talking about.
Sure.
Which was more about, leading with us. Authenticity is crucial, especially in high stakes environments like theme parks. But it's not just about growth metrics and cultivating a culture. There's a question coming, it's coming, that values human connection. But how do you, Sondra, see leaders balancing business goals with empathy? And is there room for that?
I mean, I definitely think there's room for it. And I think that we're moving into a time where people are looking for that more and more in their roles, right? They're looking for companies that value that. But for me, I would say the biggest thing is aligning the team with the goals of the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we really try to do at Gatemaster, is understanding, like, if we're winning, how is the team winning? Mm-hmm. And not just like in their work, but in their personal lives. You know, I know the goals of not everybody on my team, but everybody that reports to me. I know what they're trying to accomplish in their own personal lives, be it if they're buying a house or trying to pay off a vehicle or whatever those things that they do in their personal lives. And the reason I know those things is because I ask every year, at the beginning of the year, I sit down with them and we go over their personal, professional, financial goals. Yeah. And part of that is because, one, I want them to be thinking about their goals. I also want to raise the belief of what's possible in their own lives. But understanding that when I first started doing this, it was a little weird because oftentimes people say, nobody's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
Especially at work, right? Nobody at work cared what I wanted.
Expectations are so low.
Yeah, right. And I realized, like, that I was kind of onto something with regards to getting to know my people. And then what I've really tried to do is, when we're winning, to make sure that they're winning, and then also to celebrate the wins that they have personally, if they'll let us. I mean, not everybody wants to celebrate all their wins, but you know,
so that sounds a lot better than the ice cream cake in the kitchenette where you get pulled in and everyone sings at way too slow of a pace and out of key happy birthday at you. That doesn't strike me as the best leadership experience. But I do think I've had bosses who, I mean, I've had all kinds of bosses in my life, but I have had some bosses that, just like you said, they were very much interested in what it was that we had going on in our personal lives, in our world, not in an intrusive way, but in a way so that they understood more of who we were as people and what made us tick. And I think that's essential to getting the best out of people.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, when I started as a leader early on, if somebody had came to me and said, like, hey, I want to make $250,000 a year when we were a much smaller company, like, I would have freaked out, right? But today I hear that and two things happen. I go, well, here's how we're going to get you there.
Yep.
We're going to hit these targets, and this is how we're going to get you there. And it makes sense to them. They can get there. The other thing that I would say is, I say this with all respect to these people too, is if somebody doesn't have big goals for themselves, I also know that that's not a person I can push really hard. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
You know, you can push a person with big goals really hard, because if your goals are so big, they're embarrassing. You're a different kind of person.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So
that's a great point, because it's right. It's you know, and I equate that. I usually use the term someone who has fire under their butt, right? Yeah. Then you, if you can recognize that fire, you can really help them move forward and up, right?
Yeah, but also at the end of the day, you know, when I started to do this business, not only did I want to give back like the founder gave to me, you know, he took a chance on me. And one of the reasons that, and I've been on stages where I got to talk about mentorship and how much he helped me grow as a professional, but also giving me that opportunity and giving me a better life, right?
Mhm.
Like, why even do business if you're not going to have impact on the lives of other people?
Right.
Because really, that's,
Absolutely.
in my opinion, that's what it takes. And I'm not talking about like VC money and,
Yeah.
the not considered small business, because most, small business is 25 million and less, right? That's
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
I know
I think that's
nowadays.
important. That's a great note is, when I've had people do the same for me, Sondra, the investment in a human and saying, look, I see what you can do, or I get who you are and where you're at. I'm going to help you. I'm going to, it's not charity. It's just, they go, look, I'm going to put you in a position where you can actually learn and do and grow.
Yeah.
And I found that those are the kind of people in leadership or bosses that you really want to work for them. You want to do a good job, and letting them down is not an option. Not that they've set the bar that way or manipulated you in any way, but like for me, that first person that hired me at Disney was that way. Other managers and directors I had, that some of them were also that way. But even like when I waited tables and was a bartender, I had a restaurant manager who treated me in that way. And I remember how important it was to me to make sure that I didn't let him down. I didn't
Yeah.
not show up in my, best condition, or I didn't, screw something up that didn't, that was, it may be irrelevant to me, but not to the guest experience or him and his bottom line. So those are the kind of things that I think most, especially young people, they want that kind of boss,
Yeah.
And on that note, customer experience is such a huge thing. I know I was bludgeoned over the head with 1,000 soft hits about it at Disney, but in your world too, where do you see good customer service? What are some of the elements of great customer service? They could be in any industry, but what do you see?
Well, if I could just take one step back, I just want to add to one of your points. Like, when you look at like mentorship or coaching, right? And a good coach wants you to be their greatest success story. Right? So that's why you wanted to win for that person. Right? And it wasn't even for them, but and that's my feeling about it. I wanted to succeed because this person took a chance on me, but also like I knew he wanted to see me become his greatest success story as a mentee. Right? It's super important. But then just going back to the guest experience, I was just a couple weeks ago with IAPA at Honors at the Xcaret in Mexico. I don't know if you either of you have seen that resort, all-inclusive
I have
fun,
not seen that one, but
all-inclusive food. You got to look this up. This was a master class in reducing friction for guests. But I would say the biggest thing that I noticed is how much the people that worked there loved to be there. They loved coming to work every day. You could just tell. And that, I think, is the biggest gift we can give our team as people who are owning and operating attractions, is if your team loves to be there, your guests are going to feel that. And that's that's authentic.
And
go
ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, like, it reminds me of the whole like Ritz-Carlton thing, which is it's not just that that people are happy that they're empowered, right? So they can make a difference in an experience for a guest. They have a certain budget amount that they could spend even to make that experience better or to fix a problem, and that empowerment that they have, makes it you feel like you're really part of this team. You have some say, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, and also, I'll tell you, I was actually at the Ritz in Miami South Beach about a month ago, and I had a couple days between events, so I thought, well, I'll go down here for the day. And to your point, the gal at the coffee shop remembered my name every day. And I was all by myself. So it made a world of a difference because I hadn't heard my name, first of all, in days. And, I can't remember who said, I was recently at a conference and they said, the one word that everyone loves to hear, no matter what language, is their own name.
That's right. That's right. We were on a call with a guy yesterday, and he repeated that multiple times. He also referenced Clive Davis for some reason about 15 times. I wasn't sure if we were supposed to do shots when he did that or what. Kind of glad we didn't.
That would have been a nice little game.
Yeah. But on that, that was my experience too, coming from Disney, was that I remember a story at one of the, all team get together things in the park. And it was honestly the first time I'd ever been to Disney World. And they told us a story about, he was like a baggage guy, working in one of the resort lobbies. And, somebody complained that he was rude and this and that. And, you don't hear that about Disney very often, if ever. And they said, the boss, you would think that someone might have fired him or something. But they didn't. They pulled him aside and they said, hey, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. But I want you to take the rest of the day off and just come back tomorrow. You're not fired. You're not in trouble. Just take the day. Go home, sort yourself, and come back. And what they said that meant the most to me was that the people that you're serving here, many of them have spent a lifetime or perhaps just years saving up their money to come for this experience. And your role in this is to get their bags from the vehicle into the hotel and up to their room. If you're having a bad day and you let that sort of show, you ruin their experience that they've saved for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it made a lot of sense to me. And and you said the empowerment thing, which is really important. I think businesses that empower their employees, I wish sometimes some of our social media clients would allow us to just be empowered to post the damn things, not all the hubbub, 1,000 reviews. We just got our approval on our holiday campaign for 2025 Christmas. It just came in last week. So, good deal. Right. But the point being is that like even at Disney, I was saying to a friend of ours who had a problem. He was trying to get something, sort of a recognition moment for his mother, who was elderly, coming up on her last a birthday that she probably wasn't going to get back to the park again. But interestingly enough, she had been Snow White in 1960 or something. And she had worked her way through college as Snow White, which is a wonderful story. But his mistake was calling the corporate offices, and somebody was like, we can't do something for everybody that ever worked here, thousands of people. Now, frankly, I was shocked that there wasn't more of this is very simple solve, people. Long story short, because of my experience, I said to him, here's what you do. You go to the park. You go to the area where the princesses are, and you ask to speak to the, I forget what they called it, but it was the person who would be in charge of that area at the time. And you ask to speak to that team member, and they will come out. You tell them that story. Forget what corporate told you. Tell them that story. They're not going to ask for ID. They're not going to ask you for proof. They're going to take your elderly mother. They're going to take her around the side into the back door and have her meet and do photos exclusively with the princesses right there. No waiting in line, and out you go. And you know what? He went, and that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what happened. So when you empower your employees, that's where the magic comes from. Don't you think? I always said the magic from, at least for Disney, in my experience, doesn't come from corporate. It comes from the people that work in the parks, the people that work on the ground, right?
That's right. Front line.
Yeah, for sure.
You take care of those people, they'll take care of everybody else.
There was a question earlier from our friend Dan Roth, and he was asking about anything as far as your take on Ticketmaster, which is obviously like,
he's baiting us.
He's baiting. But
Ticketmaster, that's a whole loaded question, right?
Check with legal.
It's interesting. I actually did have a woman on my show recently who took Ticketmaster online.
I see.
So, the only things that I like to share about Ticketmaster. So before Ticketmaster took over, when we first were working with attractions, we did have a lot of concert venues. I was able to do ticketing for the Vault 360 in Long Beach, which is like it was a legend back then, a place. And when we would do the tickets for the venues, we were often working directly with the artist. And I think that's one of the, just kind of going back to the human side of the business, that's one of the things that I do feel like we lost with Ticketmaster is that, I did tickets for the Killers. I did tickets for Mary J. Blige, for Kanye, and a number of other artists. And they would come to me and thank me for the work that we were doing and communicate with me what they needed and how they felt about the process. And we didn't lose some of that with the direct sellers. And, I guess that's just the way that it evolved. But I'm glad I got to be a part of a time.
Yeah, I know. And you hear artists, you hear the artists now speaking up, like, this is our concert, like, why is it that we're handcuffed?
But that's obviously as old as time in the music industry.
Yeah.
And the bureaucracy goes, because I also attend a great event for anybody in ticketing called I think it's Ticket Fairness Coalition, if I'm getting it right. It is definitely the Coalition of Fair Ticketing or Ticket Fairness Coalition. Forgive me, I can't think of the exact name off the top of my head. But, when you start attending those events, you realize that it's even beyond Ticketmaster, because we're looking at who owns the tickets, the promoters that own the tickets, or the what are they called? The brokers.
The brokers, yeah.
It's like all resales.
Yeah. And then you've got the third, the secondary ticket markets. I mean, it's very complex what's happening now with tickets.
Yeah.
In those venues. In attractions, they still want to own the relationship with their guests. And I think that is when we talk about guest experience, or we talk about the connection that they have, like Disney, they want to own the relationship that they have with their guests.
Right.
And that's why, at Gatemaster, we just try to help them continue to have those relationships with their guests.
And this is for you, Sondra, or anybody else that's in the audience. If I said, can you explain to me what the term when we're talking about tickets is need to, got to. Anybody? Need to, got to.
Need to, got to.
That's what. Yeah. Anybody?
The scalpers? It's a scalper thing.
There you go, Jeff. Yeah, scalpers.
Need to, yes.
Need to, got to. I don't even know what
I spent a lot of my career trying to get around those guys.
Yeah. I remember though, I used to be able to run down to Fenway Park when I was, single and full of money, and just go to a game. And I wouldn't buy tickets. I'd just go to the park and be like, find somebody, they'd be like, need a ticket, kid. It's like,
right. Yeah. It's weird.
But you could just buy a ticket for $10 and go in.
Right. Yeah, but then on the flip side, there are times when those tickets aren't, especially today with the technology, the tickets aren't valid. I heard this. I was at Intix. I heard this really sad story of this older woman. She's taking her granddaughter to see a Broadway show, and she bought tickets outside of the ticketing system, the primary ticketing system, and they showed up and they couldn't get in, and there were no tickets for them. And that's also something that you don't want guests to have. You don't want guests and customers to have that kind of experience, because as you said, like, oftentimes I'm sure that was an investment for that grandma.
That's right.
Oh,
she's not getting that money back.
And that's an experience that you're hoping to have for a memory, and then in return, you get a memory, but it isn't a good one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. You don't want those kind of memories. Right.
So let's shift gears for a second. Your podcast, Live with Sondra, tell us a little bit about that and why, how did it come about?
So it's interesting how it came about. After the pandemic, we had lost so much. I mean, without getting in, as so many businesses did. I mean, we got to a point where we were almost starting over. We laugh and say and we were laughing and saying in 2020 we were a 30-year-old startup, because we had to make the decision to either bury the business or rebuild it. right? And I will say this: so many companies that live this long in an industry, a lot of companies don't make it 30 years, 2 generations. You know, when a company's lived that long, you have those moments where you have to rebuild. And at least with the pandemic, it was not my fault, right?
That's right.
Business, I broke it, but in this case, it wasn't my fault. And when I looked at the opportunity about and whether or not we wanted to come back, I knew that we still had a really good opportunity because there were not experts like us that exist. There is still to this day. I mean, I would love to have the audience tell me somebody who's been doing ticketing for
That's a long time.
In attractions. And we've seen everything. So I knew that we had something to offer and that we could help people. And that's really what drove the decision to keep the business going. But when we worked with, when we hired our new marketing team, I think it was like 2021, they said, well, we're going to need you to go live and tell people that we're here because we're starting over. And I thought, that sounds like the craziest thing I've ever heard. Right?
Yeah.
But I love this business and I love the people. And despite my own comfort, I will do it. And so I started going live on LinkedIn and I didn't have a name for it. I just would go, this is Live with Sondra.
Yeah.
We're here. And I would just talk. And
that's great.
Some shows were 10 minutes, some shows were an hour, right? And it just depended on how I felt that day. And a couple of years in, and I don't even remember, but I think my sister found me a guest and she said, you got to have this guy on your show. And I thought, okay, well, I'll try that. Right. My sister is one of my business partners today. That's a whole story. But she says, you got to get this guy on your show. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'll start taking guests. And I think that first year we did about 1 guest a year. Now, today we do a guest a week.
Love it. And
we also are now in the studio. So we have a studio here in Denver. We're shooting about every couple weeks, a new guest that comes into town. We've got higher production values, really trying to elevate the experience of the show. But also, I would say we're still doing the live stream show every week because I love it. It's become a part of who I am, and I love doing it. I love the value that we're adding to the industry, and I love telling these stories of people in the industry. But that's the part I love about being in the studio too, because you're elevating those stories, and you're getting the most. This industry's an old industry. Attractions. If you think, I don't know how old it is. But I think it was last year.
Roman times, perhaps.
Yeah. At least the late 1800s.
No, Jeff. We're talking ancient Rome, man. Not before that.
Yeah.
What do you think the Colosseum was?
Yeah. Well, and I know we have 100-year members of IAPA. Like, it's been around a long time.
Right.
And so there's some incredible stories about this industry, but also how resilient it is. And at the end of the day, just reinforcing my belief and understanding of that this is necessary for people. People are investing as much as you mentioned because it's quality of life. It's what makes life worth living, having something to look forward to, something to look back on.
Right.
Just an amazing industry to be a part of. And when I'm sitting by a pool at the Eschgrad in between sessions, I'm like, this is the greatest job.
Yeah. Like, this doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's
riding
awesome.
Roller coasters. I mean, I can tell you how many roller coasters I ride at different parts throughout the year. It's awesome.
I have a little difficulty with roller coasters. First of all, I don't like throwing up. I don't like being.
Yeah, that's a problem.
For me to like wait in line for someone to make me dizzy and throw up is. But I will say I've been on a couple of kiddie roller coasters, if you will, and they can be really exciting. They can be it's really kind of neat to get out of your comfort zone. You're not going to die, same as you're not going to win the lottery. What chances are, right? I love the videos when they say, "Oh, you know what? I got to check that strap. That strap's not attached right," and then they push the button and
then they drop. Yeah, that's the worst.
I don't watch those videos.
That's scary.
I would S my P.
That's really scary. Yeah.
Well, I like the rides, but you know what I also love the most is just like the experience of, like you mentioned, the getting in line and watching everybody get really
Yeah.
excited to go on.
Mm.
I rode, I can't remember the name of this ride, but it's so huge. It goes across North and South Carolina. Um, the ride, I think it's a couple miles long, or at least, I mean, it's a very long coaster. And I was
Mhm.
there with a group of people that are in the industry. We're all getting ready to ride the ride. And I mean, I'm like dying inside because I did not want to ride this ride.
Yep.
But just to do it alongside my colleagues, and everybody's rooting each other on and saying, "You got this, and you can sit next to me, Sondra. Don't worry, you'll be okay."
Right.
And it ended up being one of the best ride experiences I've ever had. It's not my favorite coaster, but I have a favorite coaster. Um, but it's up there. It was a great
You know, it's
experience.
funny just tying in the whole pandemic thing. One of the things I remember about the pandemic, of all the bad things, is being at a grocery store and we were all in the lines, right? And what happens is a lot of the times I remember, because they were so backed up, that like people would just start having conversations with other people
Oh
in
yeah.
other lines, and it became like this thing, like this is the place to talk about current events
Are
or
you kidding?
something.
I would get in a line that I don't even intend to get on the ride just to have those conversations. You know. Hey,
Right.
it makes me want to also remember. I wanted to ask you, and correct me if I'm inaccurate. I remember the first time we talked, we were talking about different parks, and one of the parks you mentioned to me was, I think it was Morgan's Wonderland.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
one of the parks? Now
yeah.
they are so unique. Can you tell? Like, because I'm going to butcher this, but could you share exactly what it is that they do? Because I think it is fucking outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing, so I've only visited Morgan's Wonderland and toured
Uh-huh.
it and got to have the experience with their team, showing us all of the amazing things that they're doing. And they're really looking at, like, how do we keep families together when they have members of their family that might have special needs or
Mm.
disabilities, or even accessibility, different levels of accessibility. And
Mhm.
I mean, this place is incredible because they have, one of the things that stands out the most to me was they had these wheelchairs that were designed to be in water, the first to ever. I
Mm.
mean, they invented this,
Mhm.
and if I remember correctly, there's no like mechanical parts. It's like run, or it's run by air,
Mhm.
which is pretty crazy, but that allows it to go in the water.
Mm.
And then they have rides, and so everyone can be together, and I think that's really important. And when the founder, I heard him on stage one time talk about how he had taken his daughter, who was nonverbal, to, and I don't remember which park, but one of the bigger parks, and she was playing in the water park with some of the other kids, and they didn't connect with her, and she was heartbroken by this because
Mm.
she was nonverbal and she didn't have the ability to speak to the other kids like they could. And so he realized that we need a special place for kids like his,
Mhm.
that they can go and you know uh, be together, not only with their
Mhm.
family but other kids. And that's
Yeah.
something that I really love about this park. It's a beautiful park, and when you're there, it's a very, very special place.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that as a shout out. I mean, I know that with I know even for my own young daughter, she's sensitive to like noise and
Yeah.
input and a lot. And they take the time to make sure that that experience is mitigated and less, and the
Yeah.
people there know how to help
Mm.
if there's an issue. They know they're trained to help you. So I love that, and that's one of the most, to me, that's part of your industry that I go. You, you don't just have to have a big patch of land and a bunch of equipment and charge money, and you can really make a difference for some people. And I
Yes.
think that that
Yes.
is the goal, overall, is to bring people together.
Well, and I was just on a summit where where Hershen was presenting, and they told this story about Dollywood, where they had again another young lady who was nonverbal, and she would go to the park, and she would meet with the same staff every single time, kind of to our point about the staff and empowering them. And they became her friends, so much so that the family moved close to the park so they could
Awesome.
visit frequently. And eventually she started talking to them, which amazed the family, because that's the kind of impact our industry can have on people, right? And part of the reason that I went and looked at Morgan's Wonderland is because I work with a team out of the UK called Outlier, which is a company that was founded by Chris Martin from Coldplay and Emmanuel Kelly, who is the first differently abled artist to do a stadium tour open for Coldplay. And, you know, they have this big vision of creating a place not only for children with disabilities, but even like grown-ups, so they can be with their people, be it friends, family, or whoever they're visiting the park with. But really the goal is to keep people together. And if you guys get a chance, there's a great video last year at the FIFA halftime show where Chris and Emmanuel performed, I think, with Doja Cat, and there's another artist, I can't remember who it was. But at the end, you know, they're singing a Coldplay song, and Emmanuel says, "We are all together." And to me, that is such a great message on so many levels, not just for those who maybe have accessibility needs, but just people in general. You know, I was on they invited me to be part of a symposium at Cambridge University on inclusive design. And one of the things that became very clear to me was that we're not just designing for people, young people, we're designing for ourselves. We're all going to be in that spot where we might not be able to be with our families because of accessibility issues, because we're all going to get older.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's fabulous. So, you know, I know we're going to have to wrap up soon, but I wanted to make sure that anybody that is not connected to Sondra and would like to be, she's now accepting applications for connection. Only if you're not a psycho.
They were all looking for that $250,000.
Yeah, right. You can find her on LinkedIn. And where can other folks learn more about your show and listen in to past episodes, especially that episode with that devilishly handsome young man you see in front of you today?
Hey, well, you know what? Go over to
archive.
Yes, and it was a great show. One of my favorite shows having you on there, Peter. But I would say go over to YouTube. And please like and subscribe to Live with Sondra. We actually just created a new YouTube channel now that we're going into the studio. So certainly appreciate any of the likes and subscribes that I get there. But I am on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place to find me, because we go live on LinkedIn almost every week every week that I'm in town. That's the only thing. If I'm traveling, I'm not here in the studio. But yeah, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your feedback on the show. And like I said, if you give us a like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it, because we're still trying to grow that.
Yes,
that's right. I love it, like all the rest of us. So, Jeff, anything to add? Anything from this day? Anything that's historical or scandalous you want to drop?
What happened today?
Yeah, what happened today? June 4th.
On this day, June 4th, I woke up.
Yeah, I say that every day.
Okay, that's a good one.
I wake up every day and sit up and go, shit, this again?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I was just telling we have a family call on Wednesday nights, and I was saying to my mom, who's 85 years old, I said, you probably don't know this about me, but when I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready in the bathroom, I make a funny face in the mirror every morning. And she's like, "Why on earth do you do that?" I said, "Because it's funny and I amuse myself. It's just the way I start the day. I just make the silly face, and then I go about my business."
Yeah,
Is that weird? That. Does that make me weird?
No. I mean, you know, people look in the mirror and they say nice things to themselves. Why not make a funny face?
I know. It was just like silly, dad humor type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that in 1975 today, The Rolling Stones became the first rock band to receive royalties for sales of their records in Russia.
Wow.
And another little-known fact is that today, June 4th in music history, Rostam released Changeophobia. I mean, right? Am I right?
I guess.
I don't know who Rostam is.
I don't know.
It's on the list. He made the freaking list. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Jeff, we got anybody lined up for next week, or we're figuring that out, aren't we?
We're figuring it out, but we will know probably Monday. We'll know.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. This was Where the Dogs of Society Howl with Sondra Shannon and Jeff Litkowski and me. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Of course, you can listen to this podcast and all the other amazing ones. Great places where podcasts can be heard is Apple Podcasts, I believe Spotify, and somewhere mixed up in the mishmash of YouTube, you'll find it.
That's right.
And I hope you all have a great weekend. And that's that. Okay. Righty then. Here we go. See you. Bye. That's right. We're going now.